Greetings, welcome. My name is Christine Theodoropoulos. I'm the Dean of the College of Architecture and Environmental Design. We're glad you were all able to join us this weekend. If you're a new student, welcome to Cal Poly. If you are a continuing student, welcome back. I also wanted to extend our special welcome to all of your supporters. I know that we have family and friends and mentors joining us today. We have quite a lot to cover because all of you sent such excellent questions. If you have more questions, please place them in the Q&A section of your webinar, and we will get to as many as we can. But before we begin, I wanted to just talk a little bit about the college and introduce you to our team. So the College of Architecture and Environmental Design is a professional school that prepares graduates to shape the built environment. In doing that, we have many different career tracks. So some of you are enrolled in our city and regional planning program. You're looking very broadly at how communities, their governments, developers, property owners collaborate to improve the lives of communities broadly. Some of you are in landscape architecture and you are designing regions and gardens and really attending to the meaningfulness of the exterior environment and our connection to natural ecologies. Those of you in architecture start with the building as the unit, but interestingly, you design many other things as well. You design furnitures and fixtures, you design districts and neighborhoods. Architectural engineers are very concerned with making sure that buildings perform as they're intended. They're addressing the forces of gravity and earthquakes and winds and materials and systems that make sense for construction. And then finally, we have construction managers who are really the people who take all of those plans and designs and realize them. It's very much a leadership development program that is about making the most complicated product that society makes, which is the places where we live and work. There's a lot that goes on in between all those disciplines, and all of them offer minors that make students in other fields able to get a window into that work. We have interdisciplinary minors as well, and we have a lot of activities that are in between the majors, clubs and co-curricular activities that we are very actively ramping up to do remotely this coming quarter. As the dean, my role is to lead the college in ways that support the success of our community and sustain the excellence of our programs. I can't do that alone. I do that with an amazing team. And so I wanted to give you each a chance, members of the team who are here with me today, to introduce yourselves and tell our audience a little bit about your role and what they can come to you for. So with that, James, would you like to start us off?
Sorry about that. Good evening, everybody, wherever you are. My name is James Mwangi, and I am the Associate Dean for the college, and I oversee, program support and operations. Basically, what that means, as far as you are learn by doing, I oversee the facilities that will enable you basically to learn. This includes, for example, our shops. We have, fantastic shops here. Our labs where you actually do the actual making and testing. But besides that, I also oversee the IT team. Before you come to Cal Poly, before you pack your luggage to come here, make sure you go to the website and look at the department requirements for your computer, because we do have a four-person IT team that also will be helped by the central ITS for all your computer needs. Then we got our shops, like I said. We have a plot center in case you are doing large plots that, you know, if you are thinking about the built environment, the first thing that comes to your mind are blueprints. Okay, so we got facilities for you to enable you to do those kind of prints. We also have a photo studio. We have what we call a digital fabrication lab. And all these are basically to help you in the land by doing activities. We also do have an exterior experimental lab that we call the Poly Canyon. And when you come here, you know, one of the things you go and visit and see structures that have been built at that site by, you know, people that have left here since the beginning of this college. And it is really a fantastic place to see how the land by doing actually comes to life. And with that, then I'll give it to Mark to tell us about the academic programs.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for being here. My name is Mark Cabrina. I am the Associate Dean for Academic Affairs in the college. My role as Associate Dean for Academic Affairs is really focusing on student success. This includes understanding and engaging with faculty around issues in the curriculum, really helping students out that are sometimes struggling, sometimes challenged, and oftentimes students that really want to talk about different career interests. And especially in my role, I am very interested in helping students understand how we engage across our different disciplines. We talk about that interdisciplinary engagement. And to that end, I wanted to share our college has 8 different minors. Each of the 5 departments have their own minor. Then we have an interdisciplinary minor called the Sustainable Environments minor. We have a minor that is a collaboration with the College of Business, which is our real property development minor. And new this year, our 8th minor is a heavy civil construction minor, which is a partnership with the College of Engineering. And I wouldn't say that any single particular minor is preferred over one or the other. What I would really encourage students to do, especially those of you out there that are starting, is first of all, not to rush and feel like you want to get every minor, because you're all here because you're wonderfully ambitious students, but to think about early on some minors that you might be interested in, because a lot of the minors also include general education courses. And that's really kind of one of the secrets with the minors, is trying to understand how you can tailor your interests in education, not only in your major courses and minor courses, but how you can really benefit from what we call double counting, from kind of thinking about courses that are part GE, but also contribute to your minor. And different minors are structured differently, but really encourage you to do that. And if you have any questions on minors, I am certainly happy to help. But one of the part of my role is also helping integrate with our college advising center, and have the wonderful opportunity to work with Mitra every day. So I'll allow Mitra to introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mitra Nafisi, and I'm academic advisor for the college. And I provide academic advising and related services to all 5 majors within the college. Advising Center is a valuable resource that we encourage all the students to utilize during their time at Cal Poly. We want to make sure that they have the right courses, understanding the key advising tools and degree requirements. Also, we provide information about university, college, department policies and procedures. We assist the student in progress toward degree planning. Help a student understand all graduation requirements, including major and general educations. Help a student plan a balanced and realistic schedule. Answer transfer and evaluation questions. Provide academic probation counseling. Assist the student with change of major. Help a student with course substitution, course withdrawal, late add, late drop, and so many other forms that has to go through the advising center. Help a student improve their academic performance, and also help a student to get involved and use all the resources available to them. In the college, we have dual advising model. That means that the students have academic advisors like me, and also faculty advisors. A student can see faculty advisors for course scheduling, course content questions, career planning, graduate school, co-op, and future jobs. Students are encouraged to visit their faculty advisors every quarter. Some departments have mandatory advising, and student needs to check with their department to make sure to see who their advisor is. We partnered with our department, with career services, housing, international office on campus, and we also encourage all of our students to connect with them as well. We are here to support our students every step of the way to make it a great academic experience for them while they're at Cal Poly. Welcome to Cal Poly. And Jessica Otten is going to tell you how to connect with college.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. My name is Jessica Otten. I'm the Senior Director of Development for the college. And that basically means I have the pleasure of connecting with all different kinds of people who love Cal Poly and who want to support our Learn by Doing activities here in the college. So sometimes that means I'm connecting with companies and firms who want to sponsor competitions that many of you students have already participated in or get to look forward to participate in. Sometimes they support community service learning projects, which are an integral part of the Learn by Doing activities here. Other times that means connecting with alumni and other supporters to support scholarships or students in need funding and a whole variety of other things that will help our students succeed. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out to me. There are also some other opportunities to support, such as becoming a mentor. So we're always looking for alumni, parents who are in industries that our students hope to work for in the future. Anyone that's interested in being a mentor, feel free to reach out to us. We have an online mentorship site through Career Connections that's managed by our Career Services group. And we have one of the largest groups on that platform. And we also enable students to participate on that mentorship platform by interviewing different alumni and partners in industry. That's called our CAED Chat series. And any students out there who are interested, please reach out to me and we'll be sure to get you the opportunity to connect with all these amazing folks who you might get to work with someday. At this point, I think we're going to move on to our Q&A. As the dean said, a lot of questions were submitted, so we'll get through those and then we'll try as best as we can to get through the questions that are in the Q&A online today. And whatever we can't get through, we'll be sure to send an email out with a link to a recording of this, as well as a FAQ, like a Q&A sheet that has all the questions with all the responses all in one place. And we'll be sure to get that to you. So let's begin. I think the first topic that we're going to cover is diversity and inclusion. It's a priority here for our college and the university. And this question is for Mark. Mark, how is Cal Poly working on diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Great, thanks, Jessica. I'm extremely excited about the development of diversity, equity, inclusion at Cal Poly, and particularly in the CAED. For the last 4 years, we've had a Student Diversity and Inclusion Committee who has developed programming and workshops to engage in issues of diversity, equity, inclusion across our curriculum. And what I'm most excited about that is it's students from many different disciplines within our college really engaging the intersections across our different disciplines. So it's become a very fantastic, engaged, interdisciplinary space. For the last 3 years as well, we've had a faculty and staff diversity, equity, inclusion who has similarly looked at workshops and trainings for faculty. But the really exciting thing I think that is has tremendous momentum right now in our college is engaging diversity, equity, inclusion across the curriculum. And it's kind of a wonderful atmosphere about our college, which is letting the students lead. They've really engaged us around issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and are really looking for ways to experience and continue to develop the impact of diversity, equity, and inclusion on the built environment.
Thanks, Mark. We'll shift over to questions about our campus, labs, and studios. I see there's a lot of questions about that in the chat, so I think some of the questions that were submitted earlier might cover some of these things. So Christine, what is the plan for fall, winter, and spring quarter? So essentially the academic year.
So we are planning to offer all of the courses that our students need to make progress to completing their degree program. So the courses will be available. In fall and in winter, we plan to offer a few courses face-to-face, but most of them will be online. This is because of public health guidelines. It's affecting the entire university. Because of that, we are prepared to pivot either to move face-to-face courses to a remote format if this is necessary, but we're also prepared to pivot in the other direction. And if health conditions improve, our hope is that we can start to open up our facilities more than we can right now. My guess is that this is probably going to be something that we will look at for spring. Currently, just seeing what's going on at other universities and at Cal Poly, we're most likely to have fall and winter be primarily remote, with some on face-to-face programs. We don't really know what is in store for the future, but we are watching very closely, and we are all so looking forward to being back together again. So at the earliest possible opportunity, that's what we will do.
Thank you, Christine. And pivoting to in-person questions. James, which classes will be in person?
Well, just so everybody understands, the decisions to decide which classes are in person and which classes are virtual were guided by basically the information we are getting from the governor's office, the CSU chancellor's office, and of course, our president here at Cal Poly. And all those are basically based on the prevailing conditions of COVID-19. Right now, as you know, most of you already know that California is in the purple color. We changed those now, we are going by colors. And because of that, we can only have very few in-person classes. Pretty much all our lectures at Cal Poly are going to be virtual, and that is still the case in our college. So all our lecture classes are going to be virtual, but our labs and activities, we were given an exception to hold those in person. So we will have some limited in-person classes that are only labs and activities. Those, however, are only in 3 of our departments: in architectural engineering, landscape architecture, and construction management. All classes, either they are labs or activities, what we call studios, in a CRP and in architecture, those are all going to be virtual.
Thanks, James. Another question for you: how will labs be run and support for students be done if everything is online? Yes,
so the advantage we have is that we had the spring quarter when we had to switch from all, our typical, mode of instruction where we have everybody face-to-face, but we had to switch to all virtual. And we had to devise a way of basically doing learn by doing virtually. We are building on that, in the fall. And as we move forward, as Christine said, a lot of our faculty, for the classes that are not going to be in person, faculty have actually developed some methods on how those in-person activities and labs can actually be done remotely to almost simulate the in-person face-to-face instruction of those labs and activities.
Thanks, James. Christine, there are some students who are wondering whether or not temperature checks will be taken on campus before their lab classes or studios?
Yeah, most students should have heard from the Vice President for Student Affairs, Keith Humphrey, about how kind of health checks are going to work for students. We are asking every individual who comes to campus to take some personal responsibility for checking their own health, their temperature, how they feel, and to be careful about mixing with other people if they feel under the weather. We are also going to have COVID testing that will be required for any student who is in the residence halls or who is attending face-to-face classes. Students need to present test results when they arrive, and for students who are having difficulty, there are going to be some assistance on campus to be able to get those tests. So those are the basic things we're putting into place now. There's also a very well-devised system for tracing and quarantining, and if necessary, if someone has contracted COVID, isolation. So all of these things are going to be working together, and we as a college at Cal Poly are participating.
Great. There's a question about whether or not students will be able to use any on-campus materials and tools for projects if they're living on campus. James, could you respond to that?
Sure. Thank you, Jessica. So again, this is guided by the prevailing conditions of COVID-19 in our county. And because right now, where we are, we cannot have indoor spaces being used for, as gathering spaces. So we are going to limit pretty much all the indoor spaces in the college for all activities, except what we talked about, the face-to-face instructions that are only going to be open at those particular times when the face-to-face instruction is going on. As soon as that is done, then those indoor spaces will be closed. Those will not be accessible to the students. We also cannot be able to provide any workspaces for students if they are on campus. And also, like, for example, our plotters, computer labs, basically all those spaces are going to be closed. Again, we know exactly why we are doing this. We cannot have gatherings on campus as long as we are still in this condition of COVID-19. However, it will be possible, depending on what a particular student group or student activities are. If they need to use, say, for example, our shops for a specific instruction or face-to-face requirement where they need to use equipment, then those will be available, those kind of exceptions, but only for the limit time that they need to use that equipment. Thank you.
Great, James. So Mark, what does Learn by Doing involve in architecture and basically the other departments as well? And how will that look during COVID for remote learning?
This is such a great question, and I think a question many of you have. And so I do want to say, first of all 5 of our majors engage in Learn by Doing. We tend to talk about studios in architecture, landscape architecture, and city regional planning, and labs in architectural engineering and construction management. Each department's faculty have transitioned to remote learning that's appropriate to their approach to studios and labs. But to answer the question directly, as an architecture faculty, I am really proud and excited to share how we've engaged the building culture in the studio atmosphere through an peer-to-peer learning through an online platform called Concept Board. This has allowed us to share student work, to engage students in discussion. And this is one of the areas where we learned so much in spring. We know that we'll actually continue to learn, and the way we teach, while we do all look forward to being face-to-face, there is much we're learning in this process, and much students have given us feedback about how much they've really enjoyed this and have actually benefited from this new format of Learn by Doing.
Great. So don't mute yourself, Mark. There's one more for you. Following up on that. So how will COVID impact students majoring in architecture? You kind of answered that question, but more specifically about building models, how will that work? And then also there was a question in the chat about You know, when is it appropriate for students to get printers and other materials and supplies, as well as where can people go to find information about what type of computer system they need for each of their majors?
Okay, you know, the first, the big picture is professional offices working across multiple offices with project time zones, working in international projects. They've been engaged in working this way for some time. So in many ways, I believe our students will actually be ahead due to this experience. Now, in terms of the question about models, it's true that some of the maybe large scale, highly crafted models our students and studios are known for, that might be challenging in this environment. But what students are doing is developing much more improvisational, quick study models with materials that are available to them. And likewise, this is a way to approach models that is very familiar to professional offices as they develop in what we call ideate, develop design ideas very quickly. So there was actually some other parts to your question as well. And there is an aspect about student support in studio. And I think this is really important, that in many ways, students are getting more direct one-to-one time with faculty in this environment. And there is something particular about the faculty, as I'm here connecting with each one of you individually, even though there's 362 attendees right now. And so that changes some of the teaching dynamics. James has mentioned the computer requirements. So I would encourage you, at the end of this presentation, we will have some links, and that will take you directly to some universities, some of our CAED web pages to address the particular computer laptop requirements. And I think that answered the question, Jessica.
Yes, absolutely. That was a three-parter, so good memory. And then also, how will participating virtually affect student life? That's a big question, you know, on students' minds. What's the time commitment in the program like now versus when you're in person?
So, you know, the big picture, I think, in the way we learn is that sense of building community. And that is particular to how we learn in our studio and lab environments through each other and through the students. But as you all know, there are many opportunities to continue to build community in the online environment. And so that is certainly happening as well in our studios. And interestingly, in discussing this with students, many students have reflected that they have a mix of synchronous and asynchronous classes. I think I know you're all familiar with those terms at this point. And what students have been able to do is balance their asynchronous classes, such as GEs and other support classes, and get that work done entirely in the weekend. So then during the week, they can focus completely on their studio work. And I've heard that from several students, and I thought that was a pretty brilliant way to engage this particular situation.
Great, thanks, Mark. James, what options are available for students who will be in SLO but would like a hybrid of virtual versus in-person options?
Yes, so like I said before, in our college, we are going to have all our lectures are going to be virtual. And then we have the labs that are going to be, and activities that are going to be, you know, face-to-face. And therefore, any student, depending on their requirement, they can choose the hybrid between both. You can take both, you know, the virtual and the in-person classes at the same time.
Great, thanks. Christine, what would you recommend to an out-of-state incoming freshman student to architecture or another department? Would it be better for them to continue online or defer a year?
You know, the decision to defer and to take a gap year is a very personal decision, and you have to consider all of your personal needs. In general, we do not recommend taking a gap year because of COVID. There are a few reasons for that. One is that Cal Poly does not offer deferred admissions. So if you basically do not come in the year you're admitted, you would have to apply again to Cal Poly in the fall, and your readmission is not guaranteed. because every pool looks a little bit different. So that's something to think about. The other thing I would say is that the greatest value of gap years is because students engage in activities that prepare them for college and their careers. And this might include travel, it might include internships, it might include, things that make the gap year a very important part of your pathway. These days, there are so many constraints on those opportunities that it's probably not the best time to have a really meaningful gap year. So maybe a better time to start your college education. As Mark mentioned earlier, learning by distance is different from learning face to face, but it actually also comes along with skills development that is very much needed in a global world that you will practice in the future. So we're upending things. You're learning a little bit more about that now than you might otherwise, but you still have to learn it by the time you graduate. Also, if you defer, you're deferring your graduation as well. And you're one more year out before you're eligible to start a career, eligible to start earning income. So there are financial implications to that decision as well. But again, it is a very personal decision. But all things being kind of equal in a way, I wouldn't do it just because of COVID.
Thanks, Christine. Lots to consider there. Mark, how are international students affected by COVID-19? You'll have to unmute yourself.
Great. So there's kind of two aspects to that, and this is an evolving situation, but in terms of student visas, most continuing international students are not affected. And with new international students that want to reside in the US, this requires at least one in-person class per federal government requirements. So fortunately, we have this information. We've actively been working with the students to make sure that they have an online course. I believe we have that resolved. The other challenge, though, is for many of our international students that are residing at home are in many different time zones. And so the interesting and the wonderful thing is faculty are very aware of that. That is something that we discuss, that students might be in a time zone from 12 to 15 hours different from Pacific Standard Time. So I think there is an awareness of that, and there's certainly care about that. So I think if you are an international student and are not receiving or have some additional concerns, please reach out to your faculty. And by all means, you're always able to reach out to me as well.
Great, thank you. So we're going to switch to housing now. Christine, why are 2 years of on-campus housing required for incoming freshmen?
We have joined other groups on campus, which includes Cal Poly athletes and majors in the College of Agriculture, to secure a 2-year residency for our incoming first-time freshman students. We do this for a couple of reasons. One is that the data show that students who live on campus for 2 years do better academically and are more likely to succeed and continue than students who spend just 1 year and then are off campus the second year. We also are very sensitive to some of the qualities of our programs that are very intensive in terms of contact hours. By the time our students are in second year, many of them are taking a studio, which has long contact hours, on top of a couple of lab courses, which also have long contact hours. It is not unusual for a second-year student in our college to have over 30 contact hours a week. And this is in addition to the 25 or so hours they're spending outside of class. And so by having them live for 2 years on campus, they're eased from the time commitment that the responsibilities of living off campus require, and help them be more successful in that second year. We are also developing programming for second year students in housing. along with a faculty member in residence there. So the idea is that the second year experience will be somewhat different, but very much about helping build a learning community in the college.
And that segues nicely into the next question. Will all freshmen be allowed to live in the dorms this fall? And who else will be allowed to live on campus? Mitra, could you help answer that question? You'll have to unmute.
Sure, thank you. Yes, they are. Freshmen are required to live on campus in a dorm, but this year they offered single room for them. So they are going to be having their own room in the dorm residence halls. And also, not only freshmen, there are some continued students and transfer will be living in the dorm.
Great, thanks. Mark, this question is for you. We're going to pivot to academic advising. How intensive is architecture and the other majors, especially in terms of work and study needed outside of class?
Great. I think the most important thing is to understand that studios and labs have a different pace and structure of learning than most incoming high school students have experienced before. And so what students quickly realize is how much they love the opportunity to engage in hands-on projects. So the commitment is really typically generated by the students rather than imposed by the faculty. So in other words, the time becomes something students really want to put time into as they're really driven to develop their best possible work.
Great, thanks, Mark. Mitra, there's a question about changing majors and adding minors. One, how do students normally do this? And two, is it any different if you're not on campus? And sorry, three, can you add a minor as a freshman? And I can repeat any of that if you need me to.
No, that's fine. Yes, change of major. The Cal Poly policy is that the student cannot change their major the first quarter here. The university wants the student to take major courses the first quarter to make sure that, to learn about their major, and then at the end of the quarter decide, okay, if this is not the major for me and they want to pursue another major, then the second quarter on they can do a little bit research, talk to the different departments and advising centers so they can get to the right place they want it to be. If they want to add a minor, as Mark mentioned, we have 8 minors within the college. It's very easy to do. The only thing is we refer the student to the minor coordinator, and then they can discuss the courses and plan ahead to add the minor to the records. It's easy to do, it's not hard, but as we like them to do 1 or 2 minor, not more than that, but sometimes they want to do a lot of, because we have so many interesting minors in the college and they want to do more, but we usually advise them, sit down, look at your flow chart to see where you can add these extra courses. Some of it, double count, triple counts, that's fine, but at the end, there are 28, 24 extra units they have to add to their flow chart. So they have to be very careful by selecting which minors they want to do. Did I miss another question?
If you're a freshman, so you're saying if you're a freshman, you don't advise that they add a minor in the first quarter. That's not allowed, but you can consider it after that?
Yes, yes. It's better for them to get adjusted. We don't want them to be overwhelmed with the courses. We want them to get adjusted to the quarter system, to new environment, and then to the courses. And also some of our minors, they don't accept any student the fall quarter. For example, CM, it's not accepting minor this fall. Maybe from winter and spring quarter, they can pursue that. And then architecture engineering also, they have to be in architecture engineering 211 and 212 first in order to be able to request to add the minor. So every minor has their own criteria. So it's better to take time and then do it after the first quarter.
Okay, and stay on, Mitra, because the next few questions are for you. Do freshmen already know who their faculty advisor is?
Not right now, but there is a list of faculty advisors for each department on their department webpage. And
Okay.
also, they can check with the department so they know who their faculty advisors are. Also, as I mentioned, some of them have mandatory advising, so they need to get to know them as soon as possible so they can make the connection from the beginning.
There's a question about whether or not students can choose a major outside of CAED, either if they want to switch majors or if they wanted to dual major.
They can change major to any major they want, but they have to keep that in mind. Some majors are impacted and they may not accept any change of major. It depends on which major they want to pursue. And then we can do a little bit of research and let them know where they want to go and how to do it. Also, double major, if anybody wants to double major, it depends on the departments. It's possible, but it's not guaranteed. It depends on the departments and the major if they accept the double major.
Great. This next question is probably from a very ambitious student. Is it possible to graduate in 4 years with AP credit and summer classes for landscape architecture? So landscape architecture is a 5-year major typically. And which majors is it possible to accelerate the time to graduate?
So this is something that the student need to consult with the department. I haven't seen it done because some of the courses only offer once a year. But if they want to do it, they have to plan way ahead of time and make the plan ahead with their department head to see if it's possible to do.
Great, thanks. Christine, there's a question about graduate study. How can students explore graduate study or pursue graduate study here?
So around 15% of our undergraduates move on to do master's programs. Some of them are here at Cal Poly. We have graduate programs in city and regional planning, architecture, and architectural engineering. And then some students leave Cal Poly to go to other universities to study more specialized subjects. So it is a common pathway for our students. What I would recommend is talking to faculty in the disciplines that you're interested in pursuing graduate study in. And then doing this early enough, I would say, no later than your 3rd year, so that you have the time to prepare to apply to graduate school, which students would typically do in their 4th year, or if you're in a 5-year program, your 5th year. But it is a common pathway, and I would say maybe especially common for our engineering students, because the pathway to becoming a structural engineer often includes graduate study.
Great, thank you. Mitra, sometimes classes that are required are canceled, or they might be full during the summertime, or I guess any quarter. How can students ensure they can register for their required courses and graduate on time?
I rarely see that major courses get canceled during the school year. Summertime, yes, maybe because of the low enrollment numbers, the classes might be canceled. But for major courses, mostly the seats are reserved for our students, so they shouldn't have any problem getting to major courses. But there are some maybe support courses and GE courses that could be a little bit bottleneck or could be hard to get. But if they plan ahead, they will eventually get to those classes and then move on with their curriculum. But sometimes, it's a student choice. I think their classes offered at 7 o'clock in the morning or later in the evening, or they don't want to take early or late classes, or they want a specific GE course to take, or they want to take a specific course with a specific instructor. So that makes it a little bit harder for them to catch up with their curriculum. But university offers classes from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock at night, and there are plenty of courses if a student wanted to catch up with their courses. And also sometimes we recommend if they can take some of the lower division GEs over the summer so they can catch up, to be on track with their graduation plan.
Excellent. So now we're going to switch over to questions about co-curricular activities, study abroad, internships, and jobs. So James, how do students get involved with the construction management Reno team? And this is a annual competition that's hosted in Reno.
Yes, before I answer that question, let me just shed some light about our student co-curricular activities in the college. Not only in the college, but at university level, there are clubs and what we call instructionally related activities that students can participate on. And some of these are, if you go to at the university level, for example, it's the ISI, you come to the college level and we have fantastic clubs there, Ambassadors Club, Design Village, okay, and then you go to department level because our departments are actually affiliated with 5 distinct professions. So we have student-related or student clubs that are affiliated with professional organizations. For example, students from Structural Engineers Association, student club like that. And so what this question is asking is related to the construction management student clubs, for example, and they have activities like competitions. And every department has a lot of this going on. And if you go to the college website, you will be able to have a link of all those clubs that are in the college. Now, as far as answering specifically to this question, the Reno competition, unfortunately, because now we are going to be doing pretty much everything virtual, there will be basically all their meetings, all the clubs and activities meetings are going to be virtual. So somebody coming in, you actually have an advantage because you can join in those Zoom meetings. And because those competitions are not going to be hands-on, you actually get time to learn about the activity itself. So you are looking at the previous competitions and you are familiarizing yourself with what has been going on in the past. So when all this COVID stuff is over, now you are really ready to go and participate in the competition. So this will be like almost your learning experience through these virtual meetings. And I highly, highly advise everybody to participate in one of those clubs, even though they are going to be virtual. Thank you.
Thanks, James. Mitra, are there internship or competition opportunities for freshmen, and what are those? And how do faculty and staff at CAED support students in being successful at these?
We have a great career services that provide great services to our students, such as job fairs, assist the student with internship search, resume, cover letters, interview technique, and practices. So students on their first year, they can prepare themselves for the internship for the following year. And every time we have a job fair on campus, I encourage all of our freshmen to attend the job fair to get to know the companies, to see what they're expecting, what are they looking for. So this way they can prepare themselves. And I suggest talk to the companies. You never know, they might have a position for them for the first summer. They are, looking for freshman year to do an internship. And I've seen a lot of students do that during summer, even the first year of their internship. First year to do internship. And also faculty are great resources for students. They can always consult with the faculty because faculty might know companies and areas that they're looking for internship. They can refer to students. Also newsletters posting, all the departments have their own newsletters that post their jobs and any offers from companies there. Also in our college, we offer a lot of our students to do different assignments for the college. So that's part of their experience that they can earn.
Great. There are a lot of opportunities, and all of us here who are panelists know firsthand and have worked with students in our college, and they're amazing. And it's a wonderful opportunity for them to gain experience for their resumes. Mark, when will study abroad opportunities be available to students, and what do they look like?
Great question, and it's a question on many current students' minds, and I'm seeing some questions in the Q&A about study abroad as well. So I just wanted to make sure for new students that each of our majors has different study abroad options. Some are options that some students, well, they're all optional, but in the fourth year architecture program, many of our students, the majority of students, are either studying internationally or off campus. The Archie program has a wonderful program in the summer. CRP students have options for study abroad. CM students have a wonderful opportunity in summer, and landscape architecture students are often engaged in different exchange programs as well. That said, any international travel is at the start restricted by the State Department. So as long as we have a do not travel cautionary advisory, we will not be able to open up study abroad opportunities. So that's the first thing that we look for. And we do this very closely in consult with our international center, who's very aware of the significance of our international study abroad opportunities in our college. You know, I wish I had a better answer for you. All I know is that we're actively looking and are very aware of students' concerns. And we are looking at some creative opportunities, such as online courses that are engaging international faculty with options then to travel when travel is available.
Thank you, Mark. I know students will be excited once that's lifted. Mitra, are there any summer internships or curricular practical training issues for international students?
Shouldn't be any issues for the international student to get internship as long as they meet the criteria. And the criteria is to be full-time enrollment, so having full-time enrollment in F1 visa status for minimum of 1 year academic year at Cal Poly, have a good academic standing like GPA, minimum of GPA 2.0 and above, and making progress towards completing their degree. And also sometimes we have to, as an advisor, write a letter for them to recommend the training for the students. And also international office can help them with the process of the application. Career services can assist them with internships research. We all are here to help them any way we can to get those things happening for them.
Thanks, Mitra. So I know this question is on a lot of people's minds. Due to the pandemic economy, we're concerned about jobs for recent grads. Can you share details about job placement for the class of 2020 and plans to help the 2021 graduating class? Christine, could you share?
Yeah, you know, it is something we are all watching very closely. Very interestingly, around the 1st of March, 2020, we had the largest number of job postings in Cal Poly history and a very large number in the College of Architecture and Environmental Design, with record numbers of people attending our job fairs and coming to campus. Around June, the number of openings dipped to about 50%. But today, they're back up, such that there may be only 20% less than the numbers that we had in early March. But what is really interesting is that our numbers are still greater now than they were at this time 2 years ago. So what is happening is there was an initial kind of pause, but what we are seeing is that as a lot of firms have kind of adapted to the remote working methods, they're beginning to welcome interns and early career, graduates into their firms, which is very good news. A national survey of employers suggests that somewhere between 70 and 80% of them will continue their recruiting on university campuses. We are currently in the process of surveying the graduates of 2020 and all of the employers we work with to get more precise information about what's happening with them. But the indicators are actually better than we were expecting for where we are now. And another thing that I'm hearing anecdotally is that some of our employers who worked with interns and with beginning new staff through remote vehicles were actually pleasantly surprised at how well it went, that they found ways to onboard students and new staff in their firms. So as the word gets out, our hope is that we will be able to sustain employment for students. And we are looking at a lot of creative options to kind of, I don't know, encourage firms to continue to hire.
Thanks, Christine. Mark, what scholarship or support opportunities are available for students impacted by the pandemic?
Great. So the university has a Cal Poly Cares, which is our internal system for supporting students that have emergency needs. There is also the Federal CARES Act, which offers support for students as well. The Federal CARES expired in spring, though we do have some continuing funds to support students. We have other resources as well within the college in terms of our annual scholarships. And I think that's about what's coming to mind at this moment.
Absolutely, and I believe there's a website where they can go for more information, and we'll have that available for folks at the end of this. So that concludes the questions that were submitted in advance of the webinar, and I see that there are 39 questions in the Q&A. Maybe about half of them have been answered. The rest of them, I would say the majority of them have to deal with advising. And Mitra, if you could just make a quick statement on who people should go to if they have questions about changing their major, or what GE courses they need, or who their advisor is. Where should they go first?
So this year, university have a first-year advising center. Mustang Success Center would be the first-year advising center, and then we recommend that student reach out to them. But for other students who are here, transfer student, they can all come see me or on Zoom or email me. I'll be happy to answer any question that you have.
Thank you. And then there are still a lot of questions about whether or not people should come back to SLO. I think the best thing to do is, unless Christine, you have a response to that, is to check the COVID-19 website for guidance there. Christine, did you want to add anything?
All I can advise you is to check that website regularly, because there are new postings all the time. And there's a lot of detail for students about what to expect. And it's really the fastest, best way to get current information.
And so now we're about 2 minutes till the end. We will say our goodbyes, and at the end of this, we'll have a slide with a lot of links. The first link will be our email address. So please, if your question didn't get answered today, know that we will be reviewing the Q&A and creating a sheet with the Q&A and making that available for everyone. But if there's anything else that you have on your mind, please do email us. We want to hear from you, and we want to get you answers as soon as possible. So thank you, everybody, for taking the time to join us this evening.
Yeah,
and we look forward to connecting. Bye.
And thanks for all the great questions. See you soon.